Yo, what's going on, Headliner Nation? Kyle back with the Fantasy Headliners, and we're continuing with some of our Dynasty content that we're going to be dropping this offseason. For those of you where the grind never stops, those of you in Dynasty leagues where literally football takes place all season long, I've got 4 names for you tonight that I consider to be sell-high candidates. Now, for those of you that don't play Dynasty, you're still going to get something out of this video. So don't click off it just because it's a Dynasty-oriented video. There's still a lot of good 2021 information in this. But I also want to remind everyone that just because I have these guys as sell-high candidates doesn't mean I don't like them. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. But for those of you that have not heard yet, if you look right below this video, next to the subscribe button here on YouTube, there is a membership button that is now live. $4.99 a month is going to get you access to all of our exclusive videos that are not available to the public. It's going to get you an extra live stream this year. In addition to our Saturday night live streams, we're going to be doing a members only live stream on Sunday mornings. You're also going to get a sweet badge next to your name for the comments in the live chat and some emojis that you can use in the live chat or in the comments down below. Either way, that's something that you're probably going to want to try out. Right down below this video, $4.99 a month. Give it a shot. See what you can get out of it. Now, here, we've got 4 guys that we've got to talk about. And as I mentioned a minute ago, just because I have them as sell-high candidates doesn't mean I don't like them. Part of the philosophy of being a good Dynasty owner is knowing when to move your assets at peak value. I mean, that goes for a lot of things in life, right? Your car, if you've got your car paid off and you're at a point where, hey, if I trade this in, I'm going to get some peak value right now. You trade it in before it breaks down on the side of the road, right? You trade it in before the axle comes falling off and your wheel comes shooting out. Listen, that may have happened to somebody. Me. But anyway, you want to make that move before value tanks, okay? And with the 4 guys I have listed here, part of me is concerned that they're not going to be able to hold up the value that they currently hold at this point in time. So if you were to sell them right now, you could potentially go back and get them next year for less than what you sold them for, okay? It's going to cost you less to get them than when it costs somebody to get them from you this year. And that makes you a good Dynasty owner when you can go through the changes and value like that. For instance, the first guy on my list, Jonathan Taylor. I love Jonathan Taylor. Absolutely love him. He was my wide receiver, or he was my running back 1 in the draft last year. I have nothing against Jonathan Taylor. I would love to have more Jonathan Taylor shares than what I have right now. But right now, his Dynasty ECR is running back 4. That's pretty spicy. Spicy. Is it warranted? Yeah, it could be warranted. I don't see why it wouldn't be. Again, I have nothing against him. But I think a lot of people are forgetting that Marlon Mack is going to be back this year. Remember, they brought him back on a 1-year deal to help solidify some of that depth in the offense. And they like Marlon Mack there, okay? Obviously, they like Jonathan Taylor more, and Jonathan Taylor is going to be the starting running back. But you also have Nyheim Hines. And for fantasy owners last year, Nyheim Hines was he was a little bit of a thorn, whether you were a Jonathan Taylor owner or a Nyheim Hines owner. Whichever one you were, he potentially caused a little bit of heartburn throughout the season because, one game he'd be getting goal line carries and tons of looks out of the backfield. And the next game, he wouldn't be used at all. And then the next game after that, he's got 6 targets and 5 receptions for 57 yards. And that's the thing. There was really no telling what they were doing last season with the running back rotation. There wasn't anything set in stone. Also, left tackle, Anthony Costanzo, he retired this year. And what if we see some more stacked boxes against Indianapolis? What if people say to themselves, what if some of these defenses say, you know what, Carson Wentz, we'll see if we can get him to make some mistakes like he did in Philly. Let's see if we can cause some pressure. If they decide to stack the box and say, well, we're going to take away the run, we're going to force Carson Wentz to beat us through the air. They didn't bring in any type of a big name wide receiver in free agency. They re-signed T.Y. Hilton, who may or may not have lost a little bit of a step. You got Paris Campbell coming back from a pretty big injury. The wide receivers, that wide receiver room isn't as dynamic as what, it once was, or what some of the value was going into last year. So what if Jonathan Taylor sees some more stacked boxes this season? His running back for ECR right now is pretty spicy. It's above Alvin Kamara and Nick Chubb and Derrick Henry and Cam Akers and Aaron Jones. All deservedly so. Ezekiel Elliott's fallen all the way to 12. I don't think he should be that far. But Jonathan Taylor is a guy right now that you could flip for a ton of assets. Now, the one mistake that Dynasty owners make is they flip a asset that we have seen do it already for a whole bunch of picks. Don't do that, okay? But if you can get yourself potentially 1 or 2 first-round picks this year, along with a good player on top of it, like what if somebody told you that they would move Ezekiel Elliott for, or what would they would move Jonathan Taylor for Ezekiel Elliott and a couple of first-round picks? You got to think really strongly about that, because the potential to come back and get Jonathan Taylor next year for maybe RB6 through 8 value instead of RB4, it's a possibility. Now, if I were to trade Taylor, I would need to have a huge return, okay? But that's something that you have to weigh within each and every league, because each and every league is going to be valued a little bit differently. What about the wide receiver one in Dynasty ECR right now? Davante Adams. Now, why would you want to move on from Davante Adams? The dude has been an absolute beast, right? I mean, the dude is one of, if not the best wide receiver in the game. You can make an argument for Davante Adams being the best wide receiver in the game, and heck, you can make an argument that he is 100% the best fantasy wide receiver in the game. But we've got some issues at quarterback right now, right? I firmly believe it's going to be Aaron Rodgers. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going anywhere, okay? I do think Aaron Rodgers will be the quarterback in 2021. So personally, I'm not that worried about it. But there are people out there who are going to have worries about it. Trust me, I know, because I keep getting a lot of questions about it, okay? Hey, what would you do with Davante Adams? Hey, what are we doing with Aaron Rodgers? Hey, how does this affect Aaron Jones, okay? Davante Adams also has a new wide receiver 2 joining him, and Amari Rodgers that I really like a lot. This is a guy that can go into the slot and automatically be what Randall Cobb was for Aaron Rodgers back when he was still with Green Bay. Okay, so there's another thing that could take away a few targets. Okay, but what about Davante Adams without Aaron Rodgers? Okay, I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does for some reason, I mean, I didn't think Tom Brady was ever going to leave New England, and look what happened. Davante Adams without Aaron Rodgers back in 2017 when Aaron Rodgers got hurt, Davante Adams played in 7 games without Rodgers. His average per game, his per game averages were 8.8 targets, 5.8 receptions, and 69 receiving yards. During that time frame without Aaron Rodgers, he was not bad, not great, the wide receiver 14. He's the wide receiver 1 right now. So at worst, you move one of the best wide receivers in the game, a wide receiver 1, and again, don't move him for just a bunch of garbage. Make sure you get dedicated players in return. Okay, I have to emphasize a lot there because I want to make sure everyone understands that. I don't want you going out there and trading Davante Adams for a first, 3 seconds, and 4 thirds. Nobody wants that. Nobody cares about that, okay? So you're trading a wide receiver 1, Davante Adams. Maybe he isn't, a 1 or 2 wide receiver this year, right? It's really hard to replicate that, okay? How many times can you look back and see where a guy was a top 1 or top 2 or top 3 wide receiver, running back, quarterback, tight end, doesn't matter, and back-to-back years or back-to-back-to-back years or whatever it may be. It's really hard to replicate that year over year over year, okay? Get really good return on him right now, trading him as the wide receiver 1, and then hopefully next year, boom, If Aaron Rodgers sticks around, okay, maybe Davante Adams does have a little bit of a down year, whatever it may be. Maybe you can get him a little bit on the cheap next year. Or maybe next year, there's all this talk about Aaron Rodgers again, and you go out and you get your boy next year and bring him back in. Again, don't trade him for absolutely nothing, but if you're worried about Aaron Rodgers and you need to move on, this wouldn't be a bad time to do it. A guy that I'm definitely not in love with, it's Jalen Hurts. And right now in Dynasty, he's currently the QB 12 in expert consensus rankings. And I am not a fan of Jalen Hurts. I've got nothing against him. I'm just not a huge fan because as of right now, yes, he is the QB 12 in ECR, but fantasy owners are valuing Jalen Hurts as a top 10 quarterback. They love his rushing upside, right? They absolutely love it. And last season, from week 13 to week 17, when he was the starter, he was the quarterback 8. Okay, that's great, right? Well, maybe it's not as great as it looks. And this is why we need to dig in a little bit deeper, ladies and gentlemen, because in week 13, he was the quarterback 27. In week 14, he was the quarterback 13, so getting a little bit better. Week 15, the quarterback 1. Boom, there we go. But then in week 16, he drops back to quarterback 12, and then in week 17, he drops back to quarterback 18. So some up and down performances there. He wasn't super consistent to end the year. His completion percentage last year was 52%. 52%, ladies and gentlemen. I know you love the rushing upside, but do you really want a quarterback on your team that's barely completing 50% of his passes? I mean, shoot, none of you want Jameis Winston because the guy throws 30 interceptions a year, but at least he completes a majority of the rest of them. Jalen Hurts struggled to complete 50% last year. He was at 52%. Really, he's got one big performance. He had that week 15 performance where he was quarterback 1 that's really bumping that up. From week 13 to week 17 last year, he scored 105 fantasy points. In week 15, he scored 37 fantasy points. That was 36% of his fantasy points last season in 1 year. I don't like betting on guys like that, ladies and gentlemen. There is a lot of really, really good value at the quarterback position. You're going to have to spend a pretty good pick to get him in 2021. And for those of you in Dynasty leagues, you're loving to have him right now. I'm moving on from him. I'm trading him. They don't seem fully dedicated to Jalen Hurts. Yes, he's going to get the opportunity this year, but it could end up being a short leash. I mean, what if they want Joe Flacco to start? I mean, if they want Joe Flacco to start, I would rather bang my head inside a trash can multiple times before I watch Joe Flacco play another down of football in the NFL. But I'm not the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? I don't get to make that decision. Jalen Hurts is a guy that you can move on from right now. You can get some really good value, especially in Superflex leagues. In Superflex leagues, you can get one hell of a haul for Jalen Hurts. Even in 1 QB leagues, though, because of the rushing upside, you can get really, really good value. And in 1 QB leagues, if you already have a good quarterback on your roster, I'm trading Jalen Hurts, and if all I get are picks in return, I'm fine with that because you don't need a whole bunch of quarterbacks in 1 QB leagues, okay? You can trade Jalen Hurts, and you can get yourself some guys maybe in the first round that will help at the skill positions a little bit more. The tight end position is a wasteland. It has been for quite a while now. And Mark Andrews is a guy that fantasy owners seem to be kind of hot and cold on. You know, Mark Andrews, you look at him and a lot of people are like, ooh, I love Mark Andrews. And some people are like, ugh, God, I can't risk it every week with Mark Andrews. You have no idea what type of performance you're going to get. But here's the thing. Right now in Dynasty, he's the tight end 5. Why is he the tight end 5? Because Kyle Pitts is already the tight end 4 in Dynasty, and he hasn't even played it down in the NFL. It's just crazy. It's crazy, the Kyle Pitts hype. Uber talented, though. Uber talented. He very well can end up being there by the end of the season with no problem. But my issue with Mark Andrews this year is what we could end up seeing in that offense. Now, they went out and they added a couple of pass catchers in the draft. Okay, Wallace, definitely a speed guy, can stretch the field. Rashad Bateman, a true wide receiver 1, an alpha-type wide receiver, to give Lamar Jackson some of those weapons that he's needed for a while, okay? But what if that forces Lamar Jackson just have a little bit too much pressure this year. Lamar Jackson this season really tries to push down the ball down the field, really tries to turn into a quarterback that he's not. I'm sure he hears a lot of the chirping that you hear, whether it be around the NFL from execs and other people to talking heads on TV to fans out there that say, he's not the guy. He's not a guy that can take this team to the next level. He's not a guy that can pass consistently. What if he hears those things and it just forces him a little bit this year and he's like, oh, I gotta do this. I gotta go to my guys. What if it just kind of throws that off and all of a sudden Mark Andrews goes from being his trusted safety blanket to being a guy that now is kind of looked at as maybe the number 2 or the number 3 option because we're throwing the ball outside to the wide receivers trying to push the ball down the field a little bit more. I mean, it could work in reverse. I mean, having those guys could end up helping Mark Andrews to be more available underneath with less big coverage. But tight ends are tough to come by. I mean, if you've got a couple of good tight ends on your team and Mark Andrews is one of them, I'm trying to move Mark Andrews right now as the tight end 5. I like Mark Andrews. I've got nothing against him. Absolutely love him. I'm a guy that is consistently backing up Mark Andrews, defending him, saying, hey, this is a guy that you're good to grab in the draft. I mean, he is going to have some decent volume. I'm just worried that we're going to see Lamar Jackson try to become something this year that he isn't, and that's going to mess up kind of the passing game and things like that. And because they've added some weapons now and they have some actual guys, what if that volume starts to come down a little bit? And now that volume that we expected from Mark Andrews isn't there. I could see him dropping a few spots this season, but if that happens, heck, you can go get him for even cheaper next year. And then you have yourself Mark Andrews back, and then you've got a guy that maybe he's not as consistent as we once saw, but he's definitely a guy that we can play in really, really good matchups. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another Dynasty video in the books. If you're new here to the Fantasy Headliners, hit that subscribe button. Become a part of Headliner Nation today in the comments down below. Let me know who are some guys that you're trying to sell high right now in Dynasty. And make sure you hit that like button for us. We always appreciate that. Consider becoming a member here on YouTube as well for only $4.99 a month. You get a bunch of great stuff that comes with it. Help support the channel and help us continue to grow this amazing movement here at the Fantasy Headliners. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to get out of here. Stay safe, stay healthy. I'll catch you on the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.